It's Joshua Farnsworth again, and I'm here in the blacksmith shop of my friend Bruce. He's going to show me how to repair a chisel. I've got some old chisels that I've gotten over the past couple of years, and some people in the past have used them improperly and caused some breaks and some bends. So he's going to just take a couple minutes here and show us a little bit. We'll just show some highlights of how he gets these chisels to get straightened up and repaired so you don't have to throw them away.
Right. This chisel has a fracture in the hard edge. That's high carbon steel that was welded onto the flat bottom side of this. The top has a soft mild steel or maybe even wrought iron, depending on how old it is. And this crack, which has gone through the hard steel portion, is going to be welded back together against the low carbon steel on the top. I'm going to put it in the fire, bring it up to about a bright orange-yellow color. It's good to put the steel up, so the steel is always going to be a little bit cooler than the thing below it. And the coals are going to slowly bring the entire tool up to a welding temperature. You can see it's getting a nice color to it. And we're going to go nice and slow because we don't want to ruin the edge if we can avoid it. Okay. It's forged borax, and you can see it's melting. Can you see that in the camera? Yeah. All right. It's not only melting, but it's seeping into the crack. So it's hopefully going down to the area where we want to do the weld. Now this is the trickiest part. Now we want to bring the temperature back up above that temperature, but not so high that we burn the steel, the hard steel, which is on the upper side now. So we have hard steel here, we have soft iron here. We've hopefully got that flux has gone down into the crack and it's ready. It's going to clean the oxide as it forms off of those pieces. So the slightest little tap with a hammer will fuse both pieces back together. You can see that color is, I would describe it as a bright yellow, lemon yellow, I don't know, something like that. That's the right temperature. I'm backing off on the air supply a little bit because I think it's at the welding temperature. I want my tongs in this hand and the hammer ready on the anvil for the other. Now I'll shut off the fan altogether, bring it out, and it'll look good to me. Now you can see it's soft enough that we can do a lot of manipulating, get it back into that shape. If I were the master woodworker, I'd want it to look about like that, right? Because you need room for the handle. And ideally, you don't do the hardening and tempering now, although some people do a shortcut where they basically take this and dip it in the water, harden it, and then let this residual heat do the tempering. It's a complicated process. What I'm going to do is kind of leave it to air dry, to cool off in the air, which is probably the gentlest way to do it. I'm afraid that if I were to dip this, it would develop cracks. So we let it kind of sit and gently, slowly cool itself down to something closer to a room temperature. So this is our second chisel demonstration, and there are two things that we're going to do for this chisel. One is we're going to take the mushroom shape out of the handle, the socket, so that it can receive a piece of a new chisel handle. You want it to be formed so that it can receive this sort of handle. The second thing we're going to do after we do the handle part is because this has a fractured chunk of steel and looks like about 3/4 of an inch of the edge has been broken. It's hard to tell. It might have been hit by a hammer. And since this is very hard steel, it shatters almost like a stone. So the only way to deal with this is to remove that 3/4 inch or whatever it is and leave you with perfectly good steel from about here down. And that can be maintained and used as a chisel for hundreds of years if you take good care of it. First, I want a pair of tongs that are a good fit. And usually a blacksmith shop might have dozens and dozens of tongs. And it's worth looking around for just the right tongs so that when you bring that out of the fire and start to hammer on it, it doesn't go flying off. So these are a nice, very stout pair of tongs, relatively flat. So once I grab this in my hand, that's a nice tight grip. Very important. And and that is why blacksmiths have so many tongs in their shop. So this is a nice, you can call it orange or yellow, whatever color it appears to you. And we're just going to go around and around and around, and little by little knock that mushroom down. Okay. You can see it still has color, it still has some red showing, so that means it's okay to keep hammering. And as I thought, this is all done now in what they call one heat. In other words, I don't have to go back into the fire. So we fixed one bad problem, which is the handle and getting that cone shape back. Now we're going to cut off, I'll put it down here, about this much of the chisel. I want to go right back into that same groove. I'll go back in for more. I think I want to make it a little hotter. Okay, now we're going to do the final cut, we hope, on the edge of this chisel, and it should be ready to break right off. And this should snap off. There it goes. So now, all Josh has to do is regrind the ends, and he's got a nice little stub-nosed chisel. I'm Bruce Dembling, and thanks for coming to my blacksmith shop. It's nice to be out here on a spring day finally and getting it open again.